Hello and welcome to the Cup of Triathlon podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, oxygenaddict.com and fueledbycake.com. I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Helen Murray. Helen, how you doing, mate?
Good evening, Rob. I am very well, thank you. My bag is packed and I'm pretty much ready to fly out to Austria.
Your bag is packed and you're ready to go.
Yep.
Exciting times.
It is exciting now, yeah. I think I've been through
Excited enough for the coach to be singing to you down Skype.
It's wonderful. I think I've been...
Left you strangely unmoved though, Helen. I think I was expecting a little bit more, by the way, enthusiasm for my singing. I might have to go back and edit that out.
I could join in, but I'll leave that for another time. Let you into a little secret here. 5 a.m. on the 5 a.m. shift, sometimes at work, there is another colleague who appreciates a little sing-song. So we do occasionally do a duet while no one else is around.
This is in the BBC studios.
No, not in the studios, just in the office. We'll crack out into a song.
Yeah, but still, I like the idea of the two of you sitting there lonely and
this is it.
I'm imagining
there's no one else around, right?
In the background of one of those BBC, like in the back of Match for the Day or Sports Night or whatever.
Yeah, we just crack out a tune. Yeah, bit of Phil Collins, anything goes at 5 a.m. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, let's talk about some triathlon, shall we?
Yeah. No, what I was going to say is I've spent probably the last week being ridiculously nervous. And I hope that I have now switched that slightly to excitement, and I have set myself almost like another goal. So obviously my first goal is I want to do myself proud. My second goal is there are a lot of people I am not going to be able to beat speed-wise. However, I am going to out-smile them, Rob.
Good for you, mate.
Yeah, that is my aim. I am going to be the most smiley 30 to 34-year-old female competing at the World Championships in Austria.
So why have you decided there's going to be lots of people there you can't beat? That's the interesting question. What's brought this about? What's this last-minute lack of...
Oh, no. This has been...
Answer me this, Helen Murray. How many of those women racing will have won a trout this year in a foot race? When you're barreling down that home straight, sniffing out the top 10... you will take strength from all of those ridiculous hill races, marathon races you've done in the mountains, trout that you've won, uphill only races that you've done. You've done stuff people haven't done, mate.
Yep, and people won't have smiled either for a full-on 5 odd hours, and that is my challenge.
There you go. Good for you. Keep grinning.
Keep them grinning. Yeah. And I was thinking, in Mexico, which is the race I qualified in, I remember telling you that at the start it was just like a gaggle of excitable women and everyone was just whooping and cheering and being very, very Mexican, and it just took all nerves away because you just joined in, whereas I don't really imagine that happening in Austria, so I better find my Mexican buddies.
Well, that's the key, isn't it, mate? Yeah. If you can find a way to not be psyched out like everybody else is psyched out, you're ahead of the game already.
Yeah.
And grinning and whooping and starting the traditional oggy oggy oggy. You've got to lead that, Helen. You've got to be the person who leads the oggy 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 at the start line of the World Championships. That'll mess with people's heads massively.
I should give it a go, shouldn't I? Yeah,
definitely should do.
It's going to be fun. Anyway, Rob, there has been already lots of racing this weekend, hasn't there?
Been lots and lots of racing going on. Now, I said we were going to start with the big British event that was going on this weekend, which looks... I wish I'd seen some video of this because the reports online look awesome. The Zoot Triathlon Relays from Nottingham, and this just looks absolutely brilliant, doesn't it?
It looks absolutely brilliant fun. So they had a different format, and this was for the England National Championship titles. And there were prizes going on in like men's and women's and mixed and open categories. And they had to do a 500-meter swim, 15k bike, and a 5k run. And there was like a time trial version of it. So I've seen a few photos, and essentially they are all out at the same time, and they're all on their bikes, almost doing a chain gang. It looks it looks great. It looks really good fun.
It looks like they had like a knockout thing went on first where they raced over a really short course.
Yeah.
It was like 250, 5K, 1500.
Yeah.
And then the best ones went forward to race over the longer distance. It looks ace, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks absolutely brilliant. There is one of the there's a good photo of the Optima Racing team, right, in transition, all coming out one after the other. Um, it just looks really quite good fun. Very serious faces, very.
How about this for a team lineup to be racing against? The Jackpot Racing team, right? Max Hazel, David Bishop, Tom Bishop, and Adam Bowden.
Yeah, that's quite a decent team there, isn't it?
Psyched out much?
No, I'd be whooping at them. They would be psyched out.
Yeah, there you go. You'd be grinning them off the pitch, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so they won the men's time trial, and that was the 500 metre swim, 10k bike, 3k run in a time of 31 minutes and 30 seconds. So they comfortably won it, really, by about 40 seconds ahead of race time events. And then they were a similar distance, another sort of 40 seconds ahead of the Optima Racing team in third. That was for the men. In the mixed, race time events took it out in 38.44, and then Aragon's Cumbrian Triathlon Club took second and third. In the women, it was Home First Harriers who got the win in 40 minutes and 5 seconds ahead of Brat Club and Tyne Tri. And then in the open one, the Jackpot Racing Vets, they won in 38 minutes, 23 seconds ahead of a team from Brat Club who finished in front of Sport Sticks. So it looked
nice.
like, yeah, and in that one there was only 10 seconds, so you can imagine that at the very end.
That's down to transitions right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a great fun event to do, middle end of the season, just to have a blast around with your mates.
Yeah.
And it's interesting we've had 2 mentions there for the Race Time Events race team, because our interview of the day later on today, we'll queue her up now and we'll give her a bit of a chat leading up. We've got Claire Shea-Simmonds on. Now, she races for Race Time Events, and she was part of that team that won the mixed event there. So we're going to have an interview with her later on. So perfect timing, really. We didn't know that was going to happen, did we?
No, so fantastic. Good work. Race Time Events is, yeah, good work.
Yeah,
good work.
Good work for them. Yeah, rock and roll. Right, so next events, Hells.
Yeah.
We've had the British Zoot UK relays. I suppose we should really go on to the Stockholm ITU race, shouldn't we?
Yep, which the powerhouse of Mr. Javier Gomez won again. Now, there are a few photos of him, and he looks almost like an action man. Like the lighting and the sort of definition of his muscles just makes him look almost...
It's good photography, isn't it?
Brilliant. It's almost plastic. Like, you really could imagine going and buying a doll of Javier Gomez from Toys R Us or something like that. But no, he again put on an astonishing performance, and the man's just...
I get the feeling you might have imagined having your own Javier Gomez doll made of plastic a few times before this conversation, Hells. This is where the dirty secrets are coming out.
No.
I think I know I'm getting you for your wedding present.
No, but he just looks like one of those, I don't know, Take That dolls or something that they or an action man. It looks really quite weird.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You'll have to go online, guys, to try247.com and check out the photos to see what Helen's talking about here. It's great radio, this, Helen.
No, well, we will. I will put a photo up on the Cup of Try Twitter feed. So anyway, yeah, he won, and it all bodes well for next weekend because he's going to be trying to defend his Ironman 70.3 world title. It also means that he's sort of on course, isn't he, for another 5th ITU world title. He's just amazing, isn't he? Let's be honest.
Yes,
in this one,
bit of a superstar.
yeah, we only had one Brit racing, and that was Matt Sharp, and he finished. I think he finished in 39th place. So, yeah, he was the only British person. But Gomez finished ahead of, I've actually just lost it, so let me just find it again. Yeah, João Pereira from Portugal.
Pereira from Portugal,
Yeah.
and Aaron Royal from Australia in third. In the ladies' race, we had Sarah True from the USA beat Katie Zafiras. It's another super duper run performance there, and Andrea Hewitt down in third place.
Yeah.
And Nicola Spirig in fifth as well. So
yeah, she did lots and lots of work on the bike, and it seemed that Stockholm's quite a hilly course, and it just seemed like she struggled a tiny bit when it came to the run on those hills. Flora Duffy had a really, really good race, and again we had one British racing in this one, and that was India Lee. And we've mentioned her before. She's had quite a good season as well.
She has, hasn't
yeah,
she?
so she came 26th, and it was her first ever ITU series race. So, and just confirmation, Matt Sharp finished 36th.
Jolly good. Do you think is Spirit going to race the World 70.3s as well?
She's not on the start list, no.
She's not, is she not?
No.
Okay, what a shame it'd be. Here's a question for you. Do you think that Gomez has raised his profile significantly by racing 70.3 as well as the ITU series?
That's a good question. I think people who follow Olympic triathlon in the Olympics, so maybe just put it on and watch it during the Olympics, wouldn't even have a clue or potentially may not have a clue what Ironman 70.3 racing is. If you just were to watch the triathlon on the TV during an Olympics, that's all you see. That's all you know.
Within the triathlon community, though, within the people who know about triathlon.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Because in my head, he is, I think, potentially the greatest triathlete around at the moment, because you've got the Brownlees in the Olympic distance stuff, but that's all they're doing. Yep. And then you've got what's his name? Frodeno has stepped up to race Ironman, but he's no longer doing ITU.
No.
So you've got Frodeno, who I think is potentially our Kona winner this year. But then you've got, I think Gomez has carved out this niche for himself where he's able to dominate both of the 70.3 and the Olympic distance racing. Yeah. And it'll be awesome to see when he steps up to do Ironman finally.
Well, which is going to be after Rio, isn't it? He said that a number of times now. And
he said that in an interview with us, in fact.
He did, exactly. And he was in Kona last year, checking it out, just doing some training out there. So after Rio, he is definitely going to be there. And I think then that will, if he were to dominate that as well, that would just be incredible, wouldn't it? And
what month is Rio in?
Rio is going to be August, but he would have to do an Ironman, wouldn't he, to qualify? And he's not going to be able to. Well, I don't imagine.
Unless if he's the reigning 70.3 world champion, he wins an automatic qualification. I think it's an automatic qualification slot, isn't it? If you win the 70.3 world champs.
Well, then that could be his.
Interesting.
Couldn't it?
Because that would roll over, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because it would be for Kona next year. Yeah. So he races the Olympics in August, puts his feet up, smokes a cigar, and has a few glasses of champagne.
Well, he ever does that, but yep.
Yeah, I doubt that as well. And then, it's 4 weeks, isn't it?
That's
4 or 5 weeks.
That's the thing. So would he just go out there and maybe do a little bit of it? I really don't know.
He hedges his bets. Yeah, maybe he does a big build-up in the spring and then sees where he's at for... I don't know. I think if he's going to race the Olympics, it's got to be all about the Olympics. You'd imagine he wouldn't be.
Because remember, he didn't get gold in London, did he?
Yeah, that's true.
So that'll be.
But I'll tell you what, mate. I don't see him having improved in that time. I don't see him having got close to the Brownlees.
Do you not think this?
No.
Interesting. I just think if he can remain injury-free again, then yeah.
Well, that is a good point. He is much more
solid
in terms of like durability. Yeah, he is injured much less than either of the Brownlees are, isn't he? Those two have both had horrendous times with injuries over the past, so maybe they'll end up getting injured and won't even be a factor. So yeah, interesting point, Hells.
And when and if the time comes to step up to Ironman, we heard from someone gave a talk on nutrition, and they said that this person knows the triathlon world very, very well, and his point was he didn't think the Brownies would actually really ever make an impact at full Ironman level because of the fact that they are so fragile body-wise. So.
Oh, that's a bold claim to make. Yep. Who has it said that?
Oh, I'll leave it.
Somebody who's doing a nutrition lecture.
Yeah.
With a nutritionalist.
Yeah, but has worked in the triathlon industry for a very long time.
So remains to be seen, doesn't it?
Another interesting point. So anyway, Gomez and Sarah True took the wins out there, and Gomez is on that start list in Austria. So it'll be interesting to see him up against Jan Frodeno and the likes of Tim Don and the Raylarts and Terenzo Bozzone, Sebastian Kienle, they're all on that start list for the 70.3 World Championships next weekend. But we will come on to that a little bit again later.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to watching that for sure. Right, next up, a few bits of news about Britain's racing around the world. Update, it looks like Fraser Cartmel has managed to qualify for Kona. He went over to 70.3 Bintan in Indonesia. He had a kind of semi-cryptic tweet out that kind of said, basically did enough to get the points to get to Kona. It wasn't pretty, but I think he finished 7th pro and got enough points there that means he's made the cut-off.
Fantastic, because that would be very different conditions to the UK.
Very different, yeah. Old Lucy Gossage, friend of the show.
Yep.
She was on I Am Talk as well the other week. She was second at Challenge. Say it for me, Hells.
Well, I reckon it'd be Walchsee in Austria.
I love it. Walchsee. Challenge Walchsee. Now, I was reading up here on the race report, and it looks like they all came off the bike together. It was Lucy Gossage, Yvonne van Vleuten, and Simone Brandley.
Yep.
I'm going to say that. I'm probably not going to get it right. And here's the turn up for the books. Lucy Gossage outran Yvonne van Vleuten, which we always knew she could, put 3 minutes into Yvonne van Vleuten. But the pair of them got beaten by Simone Brandley, who ran 1:20 flat to put 7 minutes into Lucy Gossage, and that's an amazing run, isn't it, off a really hard swimming a bike. So now you were saying this race next year, Challenge Walchsee, is going to be
the middle distance European Championship. So this year it was Rimini, last year it was Half Challenge Peguera, and next year it's going to be Walchsee. And from what Lucy was saying, she was just like, it was racing in almost on a postcard. It is that beautiful, and I think it's in the Tyrol region of Austria, and that's where that's where sort of Klagenfurt and stuff, isn't it? Is in that same part. It's
that area of the Alps is just stunning,
incredible,
absolutely,
So
kind of picture postcard mountains and icy blue water, and let's go next year, Hells. Let's do it.
I think sadly it might be it's in the middle of August.
You'll be working Rio, won't you?
Who knows? But potentially, in which case I can't do it.
Yeah, bit of a tough call. I'm off to Rio with work. We shall see. We shall see. But if not, there's your backup.
Well, exactly.
Why go to Rio where you come with us out here?
go to Austria and have a good race. Yeah, but it would be good.
Come on, let's get a Cup of Tri group together to all try and qualify to go and race at Challenge Walchsee next year. That'd be great fun. We'll have a Challenge Cup of Tri
championships within a championship.
Championships. Yeah, we can. That'd be brill.
There'd be lots.
End of summer, beautiful place for a holiday. Oh, I'm liking the idea of this, mate. Yeah. Mrs. Wilbeard, go for it as well.
Yes, love it. Do it.
It's just a small matter of me needing to qualify. Would they take my race results from 6 years ago, do you think? No, I don't think so either.
No, sorry. Anyway, away from Austria, and where should we go next? Shall we go to Budapest? Because we had
Let's go to Budapest.
We had a 7.3 in Budapest, and Emma Mullen won that one for the women in 4:15. She did a 1:18 run, Rob, off the
that is amazing,
off the bike.
isn't it?
And it was her first race back after being out for a little bit. I think with an injury, so she would be absolutely chuffed to get that one. And Vanessa Raw, again, her first race back after a few problems that she's had. And
she had a horrendous crash training for Ironman Germany, didn't she? And completely smashed her face in. She's had all kinds of teeth replaced, and it's great to see her back and actually, back and racing again, and finishing second is a brilliant result.
Yeah, so she was just about 3
minutes down, wasn't she?
Yeah, so that was absolutely fantastic for those two. And then in the men, again, another Terenzo Bozzone won for the men in 3:46.
That's smoking fast, isn't it?
A 2:04 bike and a just under 1:15 run.
I wonder if he'll be going to Kona. I'm going to sit down, mate, and I'm going to look at those numbers for next week. I've got to give a big shout out here to the lovely Caroline Livesey, who sent us a massive email through this week with some great links to all the bits and bobs about how to work out how many points each race has got and who's qualified and where the cut-offs are and all of that.
Yeah.
And we're also going to have an interview with the fantastic Torsten from Torsten's Try Ratings. He's coming on the show in the next week or two
Brilliant.
to talk us through it all as well. So when all the dust has settled after this weekend and we know who's qualified and how, he's going to give us the inside scoop on all the people who've got in and who haven't. And unfortunately, Caroline didn't get in. She just missed the cut-off after all of that hassle. So she's not going to get to go this year, but she said, I'm definitely doing it next year. But I tell you what, mate, there's a big... It really annoys me this because she's had two amazing results there. She had second place overall at Ironman UK. And she had third... Where was she third at?
Lanzarote.
Third at Lanzarote. And a couple of good results at 70.3s, and that wasn't enough to get us to qualify. So, I mean, come on, it's not like they're two chump change races, UK and Lanzarote, is it?
Right.
That's a nightmare, and it should be, I think, equal. With 50 slots, she'd have been in easily.
Yeah.
With only 35, she doesn't get in. So, I'm there. I'm now one of these big proponents of make it 50-50 and make it equal. And have you seen this try equal movement that's up and running?
I've read little bits about it, but I need to read more about it. But I know there's a lot of work going on to really try to get those equal numbers, because it's...
Well, I think it's more than just numbers at Kona. I think it's about trying to raise the profile of racing for women, isn't it? And try and get
getting fair starts,
participation numbers up. Yeah,
participation, so much stuff. So.
Getting the women bigger distances from the age group men to let them have a fairer race. So I had a tweet or two through and an email through this week from them, and I was really interested in what they had to say. So we might have them on the show in a bit and chat to them, because it'd be a different point of view. And it's my challenge as a man in the Western world to not be a sexist pig and to try and even out the male and female in the world, Helen.
Definitely. So it's definitely a good goal to have, because I think there are a lot of issues which do need sorting out. And I'd say...
It's a great sport that can easily be inclusive, can't it? There's very few sports where men and women can compete side by side. Running and triathlon are a couple of the only ones where you don't need to be separated. You can be on the course at the same time. And I think in terms of gender equality, there's massive amounts to be said for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, I'd say, in terms of a mass participation sport, it really is still growing. And I mean, there's so much that can be done, and then there's such a huge market out there, because if you think of all the people who, let's say 10, 15 years ago got into running, okay, they're now looking for that next challenge. And with more and more triathlons cropping up and the sport jet cycling becoming more popular as well, there is so much that you can do, and then kids events and everything like that.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff. Right, what are we on to now then? Tell me about Emma Pallant at 70.3 Brazil.
Yeah, so Emma Pallant, we've spoken about her before. She's trained with Team Dylan, so by Stuart Hayes, and she comes from a running background. She's done a couple of ITU series races this year. She was doing her first 70.3 race. It was a challenge race in Brazil, and she was leading, right? And then she came off the bike in second with a 3.5 minute gap. She chased that down, and then she collapsed a kilometre from the finish line, right?
Oh,
Four girls passed her, but then she came around, drank some water and electrolyte. The medical staff said to her that she couldn't finish, but she got up and then she walked and she finished in 5th place.
Rock star.
Yeah, and then she was in the medical tent on a drip afterwards, but apparently just had a massive smile on her face and said she loved it.
Well, she gets the nutrition sorted and she's in there. That's a great result. And she was an ex-GB cross-country runner, is that right?
Yeah, definitely like an ex-GB runner. Yeah.
So an ex-GB runner who can swim, that is going to be a deadly combination when she gets into a second and third season, isn't it? That's good on you, Emma. If anyone knows Emma, get her tweeted and get her connected with the show. We want to interview that. Fainting on the course and then getting up and carrying on, that's rock star standard. Love it.
Absolutely impressive.
It's also good to see Michelle Vesterby won Ironman Copenhagen. So she was led off course at Bolton, wasn't she? She followed a TV camera
That's
crew.
right. She had a complete and utter nightmare, and then decided to, just because she knew by that point, basically she was at UK to try to get the points for Kona, and
Yeah,
as soon as she had gone, followed that TV bike and realised that she was off course, she started the run, but then I just think she thought, you know what, there's too much to make up here. I'm not going to be able to finish high enough up to get those points. I'm just going to call it a day, and then focus on another race, which, yeah, as you say, was Copenhagen, and brilliant actually for her, isn't it, to be able to win that.
yeah.
And
And it was a good performance as well, because she's sort of 45 minutes down on the winning man, and usually, if you're inside the hour, then that puts the kind of perspective on it. So
yeah,
pretty impressive riding and running from her then.
In just under 9 hours, 8:59:49, about 3 minutes ahead of Sophie Goose of Belgium.
Yeah, good for her. So she's in. And then on the men's race, Guillaume Manocchio from Brazil took it out in 8:14. So it's obviously a fast course, isn't it, Copenhagen?
Yeah.
We had a couple of... Warren raced there, didn't he? Warren Mason raced there last year or the year before and did that stonkingly fast, like 4:45 on the bike.
Wasn't it a challenge race previously?
It was, and it changed mid-season, didn't it? People entered it as a challenge race,
it.
and then it became
an Ironman
race halfway through the season. I think that was last year. So, yeah, good for her. And the last one we want to talk about, I just want to give a mention to the other lady who I believe went wrong at Ironman UK.
Oh, yes.
Who was Xiaoyu Li of Taiwan. Yeah. She was riding behind Michelle Vesterby at the time. She's won Ironman Japan this weekend.
Yep.
And the astonishing thing about this win was she had the second fastest run of the day, including the pro men.
Oh, wow. What did she run?
She ran this was hot and humid. So this is the thing. Everyone's just baked in the conditions here. She ran 3:08 and change. So she was only a handful of seconds behind the men's winner, Patrick Evo, who ran 3:08 as well. Wow. So men's winner did 9:22. Men's pro winner did 9:22. She did 10:22. So that is a hardcore race. Wow. Yeah, slow bike and run times there, due down to the weather, I think.
And there was Nick Baldwin. He was racing there, wasn't he? But
he was
absolutely gutting for him because he got 2 flats, didn't he? And he just said, "That's it, season over, done."
Nothing you can do with that. That amount of bad luck in one race, 2 flats in one race is almost. I mean, when's the last time you got 2 flats in one ride? It's heartbreaking for the guy, isn't it? Did you get 2 in one race?
Yeah, it was awful.
Same tyre?
Yep. It was awful.
You hadn't taken out the thing, had you? Hadn't taken out the thorn.
Not even going over it again, but that was the time I finished 5th from last.
Oh, God bless you.
Yeah. But I finished.
Yeah, good for you. Of course you did. Right, coming up next week on Shore in Northern Accents. Big weekend of racing, Helen, isn't it?
Oh, it's massive this weekend. There's
So UK races we'll do first. Yeah. UK races. We've got Xterra UK, where we'll have the wonderful Jackie Slack, who's been on the show. She's going to be gunning for that. We've got the Vitruvian on Saturday, and we've also got the Rubicon on Sunday. So the two, probably you could argue, the 2 premier non-branded 70.3 races in the country on the same weekend. So it'd be interesting to see what goes on there. And I know there's a big old pro field. The organisers of the Rubicon have done a good job of assembling real good fields for the men and women's pro races there. So Joe Skipper's racing. We've got Amy Forshaw racing. They're the kind of 2 headliners. So it'd be good to see how they go there. And then it's got to be, Helen, the race of the season for the great Helen Murray and for many, many 70.3 athletes around the world.
Yeah. Quite a few that have been on Cup of Tri-Bob.
Yeah.
We've got Emma Kate Lidbury racing.
Yeah.
We've got Jill Fullen racing.
Yeah. We've got Chris Standage, hasn't been on the show, but he will be soon. He's racing, and I think he's going to be in with a real shout of an overall top 10. And I was chatting with him the other day over a coffee, and he said, I might go out there and find out I'm extremely normal compared to the rest of the world. But you never know. I mean, he was the fastest overall age group at 270.3. So I think he's, if, he eased back at 70.3 Dublin and still finished 7th overall. He could have been 5th. So the guy's on form. It'll be interesting to see how he goes.
I'll cross my fingers for him and yeah, everyone else racing out there. It should be really exciting. And the pro start list is it's ridiculous. Seriously, on the men's side, you've got Javier Gomez, Tim Don, Tim Reed, Jan Frodeno, as I said before, the Raylarts, Sam Appleton, Sebastian Kienle, Terenzo Bozzoni, Joe Gambles. It's just bonkers. I could go on. On the women's, Daniela Riff, Meredith Kessler, Heather Wertel, Jodie Swallow, Magali Tessieri. She won the race in Mexico. You got Alicia Kay, you got Susie Cheetham. As I said earlier, Emma Kate Livery's racing, Paris Edwards is racing. It's
a who's who, isn't it? It's become, I think this is the year the 70.3 World Championships have finally got that, that kind of almost the same status in the eyes of everyone as Kona. It's becoming as big a race. There's enough races around the world and the slots are getting, the first year they held it, I think there was like 120 slots at Ironman UK 70.3, and they were rolling all the way down through the age groups because people were like, what's this race? It didn't have that cachet of people wanting to qualify, and now that's not the case. Now people are picking their races to try and get the slots to go there. So it'll be great to see that pro race go down. So I'm looking forward to watching that on the old Skype.
Yeah, well, they're actually going to have coverage, so
yeah.
Supposedly.
Check it out, live coverage on the video.
Yeah. So it should be interesting. And did we mention Ironman Vichy? And they're doing a 70.3 there as well, aren't they?
Yeah, Ironman Vichy and 70.3 Vichy. So going to be
it's a big race.
Another
big weekend, isn't it?
Big weekend racing. And now, Helen, I've got some news for you.
Go on.
I've lined up. You're not going to be here to do the show next week, are you?
Well, hey.
You're going to be out sunning yourself.
I will be, actually.
Will you?
Yeah.
You're going to be back in time.
Yeah. Are you about to diss me? Are you going to tell me you've got another co-presenter for next week, a special?
Not anymore. I won't replace you, baby. If you're back, you're my one and only.
I can be around.
Great. Well, we'll have you on the show again.
What's the news?
There's no news.
What was the news?
No, I'll tell you off air.
Okay, fine.
Don't want to create an international incident now. We'll see how we go. Right. Moving on.
Coach's couch.
Coach's couch.
Back to power.
Right, we're gonna have a quick one this week, mate. A coach's couch. We're still talking about power. And I thought what we'd cover this week is normalized power and why it's interesting and how we can use it.
Okay.
So, have you heard of normalized power before? Have you got any idea what it's about?
No, fill me in.
All right, so as we're riding along, our power numbers are moving up and down. We're having a little look at our Garmin every now and again. We talked last week about 3-second average and 10-second average and 30-second average and how you can use those. And it becomes a skill, like looking at that screen in the matrix of how you read your power meter output to learn what your body's doing and what it's done over the last 10 seconds and 30 seconds and learning how to measure your effort. So it really is a case of you need to use it as a tool and you need to learn how to read that display so that you can measure your effort in corners and on hills in particular. Now, we talked about 10-second average and 3-second average, and those are useful as we're out and we're rolling around, but there's also this thing on there called normalized power. Now, normalized power is kind of like average power, but it's different. So if you imagine, Helen, that if you go out for an hour and you ride at 200 watts for a whole hour and you keep that number at 200, what's your average power going to be at the end of that hour?
200.
There you go, right? Now then.
You know I'm bad at math,
so there you go.
Don't embarrass me too much.
That is pretty cool, isn't it? If you go out for the hour and you ride at 50 watts for half an hour and then 250 watts for half an hour, what's your average going to be?
Something in the middle, like 150?
Yeah, there you go. So you get the idea that if you ride for a big chunk of time easy and a big chunk of time really hard, it could still average out to 200 watts.
Okay.
But the effect on your body and how you feel is going to be very different. So we could go out for the hour, and the whole hour is like an hour's easy ride, but we make you do 10 reps of 2 minutes, absolutely flat out, where you're doing like 300 or 400 watts for a couple of minutes. Overall, the average power number is going to be really low still, because for most of that hour, you've done maybe 10 minutes of work in that time, but for 50 of those minutes, the average power is really low. So your average power is going to tell you that you haven't really done very much work during that session, but you're going to feel absolutely gubbed, aren't you? You with me?
Yep.
So what normalized power is it's kind of like a weighted average. It tells you how your body has experienced that training session.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So the average power number for your whole ride doesn't really tell you very much, because you'll have spent some of the time doing nothing at all, freewheeling downhill, and you'll have spent some of the time going really hard uphill, and the average might look like a pretty normal number. But the normalized power, this weighted average, tells you how hard that training session felt to your body.
Okay, so it's a useful one.
It's really, really useful, yeah. So normalized power tends to be the thing that you can look at the end of your ride, and it goes, okay, you've done 2.5 hours of riding. Your average power might have been 150 watts, which looks pretty low, but your normalized power might be 250 watts. So that's the training stress that your body has experienced, essentially. So you can then use this when you're out riding. What you can do is you can use a little lap function on your Garmin and set up a little data field on the Garmin that tells you the normalized power for the rep that you're in at the moment. And so how I get my athletes to use this when they're racing is, as you're riding along, every time the terrain changes, every time you go uphill or downhill, you press the lap button, and that little box that says normalized power for the lap that you're on is telling you the work that your body's experiencing since the last time you pressed the lap button. So let's take the Ironman Lanzarote bike course. Every time you start to go up a big hill, you press the lap button, and the little data field that you're looking at that says normalized power for this lap is telling you what your body has experienced in this current stretch of power that you're going up. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it doesn't affect the overall averaging that's going on in the computers in the background. When you get to the top of the hill, you press the lap button again, and it starts a new lap. And it might be that you freewheel down the hill and you look down, and so in your head you can kind of keep track, and you go, right, I did that big chunk up that climb and the normalized power was that number, and then I had a big chunk going downhill where the normalized power was not very much. And what it does is it lets you keep in your head kind of a map of chunks of work that I've done and chunks of downhill that haven't really had much power input at all. And it just draws you.
I was going to say, it's a bit like if I'm running, and if I, let's say I'm doing an off-road run or something, and there's a huge hill, sometimes I will press lap at the end of the hill, because I know it'll bring the whatever average minute per mile thing, it'll suddenly shoot up to like 11.5 minutes. Whereas if I then press lap, it'll go back to a more normal number that I recognize and that I know.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it tells you. It's giving you a readout for that little chunk that you're on at the moment, and then you compare that little chunk to the other numbers that you've seen for the rest of the ride, and then that helps you keep track of what's going on. So this isn't a tip about training or anything like that. It's actually about how you use your power meter as you're rolling along. And the bigger picture of this is, of course, you get to be a much more aware athlete. It's almost like a mindfulness practice. And this is, I think, where the real value of a power meter is. It's not in being a kind of numbers geek and coming back and looking at it all when you get back and going, oh, my normalized power was this. Although that is fun if you're a certain kind of geek like me. What it helps happen is, as you're out riding, it raises your attention of, well, this section is uphill, so I need to back off how hard I'm trying a little bit. And it raises your attention for, well, this section is downhill, so I either need to, get my speed up to a certain speed and then stop pedaling, or, as you ride along, it raises your awareness of what's actually happening. And so over time, it makes you a more consistent rider. And you start to learn that instead of pushing hard on an uphill, you need to feel like you're backing off. And instead of sprinting out of a corner in a group ride, you need to back off out of that corner so you don't burn all that energy wastefully, and it saves that energy for the run leg.
Perfect.
There we go.
Brilliant.
So that's our little coach's couch for this week on Normalized Power.
Fantastic. And then we have an amazing interview, don't we?
We do. Our amazing interview this week, Hells, is with I've got to say, the wonderful and lovely. She's a great character to chat to. I had a right laugh talking to her. The wonderful and lovely Claire Shea-Simmonds. So we've already mentioned she races for Racetime Events Race Team. And Racetime Events is owned by the same chap who owns a new venue down in Leicestershire near Melton Mowbray called Race Hub, and they've got a beautiful open water swim venue. Claire sent some photographs through this place and it looks amazing. They've got changing rooms there, but they've also just opened a watt bike training studio, and they're going to have a retail place there as well that sells bikes and kit. And Hells, get this, they've got cake and coffee as well.
I'm in.
Proper coffee, proper cake. So it's great talking to her. She's got some good offers on for anybody who lives around the Leicestershire area. If you want to pop down, there's going to be a special offer for Cup of Tri listeners that I'm going to read out to you after this interview with Claire. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Claire Shea-Simmonds. Welcome to the Cup of Tri Triathlon podcast. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you very much.
Oh, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks very much. We are very lucky to have you on. Now, what I'd like you to do, Claire, this is a bit of the baptism of fire being on the podcast. I'd like to tell our listeners, because I've had a little read about you and I know about your results, tell our listeners what it is that your best few results recently.
Well, I suppose my sort of biggest successes over the last couple of seasons have been my qualifications for Kona. I qualified in 2013, qualified at Ironman Lanzarote with a top 10 finish overall at Lanzarote, and was able to qualify for Kona. So I went to Kona in 2013, and then last year, back end of last season, I qualified for a second time. This time in Wales at Ironman Wales, and I was delighted to claim another top 10 finish and actually the fastest female marathon of the day as well in Wales, which for those people that know Ironman Wales will know it's a tough old run course. So I guess that's a result that I'm particularly proud of.
It's not an easy run course, that one at all, is it?
No, it's not. But there's some gloss was added to that day in that my husband Duncan also qualified for Kona that day. So we made it the family double at Ironman Wales in 2014, and we'll both be off to Kona at the end of September. So we're really excited about that.
Brilliant stuff. So you were 7th overall at Ironman Wales last year, weren't you? And second age grouper overall, as well as having the fastest overall female marathon. Pretty amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I was pleased with my my run performance in particular at Ironman Wales. So I think I was a little bit further down than a second age grouper. There might have been a few more in front of me than that, but yeah, particularly proud to have the fastest overall female run split at Wales. So
you were second in your age group.
Yeah.
Age groups ahead of you. But that's an awesome run though, 3:29. I've got pals who've raced there, and I've got athletes who I train who are racing there this year, and that marathon has reduced grown men to tears, literally. There isn't a single step of flat on that course, is there?
No, there isn't. And actually, I mean, a lot of people talk about the ups on the Wales marathon course, but for me, actually, it's some of the steep downhills as well that really come back to bite you in the latter stages of that Ironman Wales marathon. So. It's a toughie, but I kind of enjoyed it in a strange kind of way. And I didn't have a great bike ride at Wales. Was a bit below par on the bikes, so put myself under a bit of pressure for the run section to pull myself back up the field. And probably surprised even myself on the day on that marathon course. So
you certainly did that, because I'm looking at the results of your age group here, and it looks like, I'm just going down the top 10. You were 15, 16 minutes clear of the next person in your age group, and some of the girls in 3rd, 4th, and 5th, you put like between 25 and 35 minutes into them in the marathon, which is which is amazing running.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it was a good day, but as I say, I'd left myself with a fair bit of work to do when I got onto that marathon course, and it's amazing what a little bit of adversity can push you to.
Yeah, isn't it? Did you have any bike problems, or was it just one of those days where it didn't happen for you on the bike? Did you have flats and things, or was it just a difficult day in general?
Nothing specific. Just didn't have a great day on the bike. To this day, I can't put my finger on exactly what it was that didn't go so well for me that day on the bike. But I had a pretty serious talking to myself in T2, and whatever it was that I said to myself obviously did the trick, because I left T2 like a woman possessed. And I think once I'd passed the first couple of girls that I needed to pass to run myself into contention, after that it just became a case of just picking them off one by one. And that was that was a motivating factor for me. So a good day.
So obviously you and Duncan have done both very well at Wales course. Did you do anything specific in training, do you think, that allowed you? I mean, you both ran really well off the bike. Duncan it was under 3:20, wasn't it, from memory? I had a quick nosy at his.
Yes, he was. Yeah. I think he was about 9 minutes quicker than me. Yeah, so I think he was sort of hovering around that 3:20 marker. I mean, both of us rode a lot in the hills. We'd done an extended trip to Mallorca at the Easter, and then we'd also spent some time in the Alps as well during that summer. So I think what it was is the hills and the lumps and bumps of Wales. Possibly we got off the bike fresher than some, and then we were able for both of us to be able to capitalise on our running once we got off the bike. So my coach actually would say that it's there's no such thing as a good bike split unless you put together a good marathon off the back of it. So I don't know, maybe I'm being overly hard on myself over the bike at Ironman Wales, because you've got to be able to run off it in order to be successful in the
well, that's the thing, isn't it? Sitting looking at the numbers of the bike splits is kind of irrelevant when you look at how much time you've taken out of people actually in the run. You've kind of cruised by probably 6 or 7 girls from your age group there.
I think I came off the bike 7th in my age group. So I was a way down off the bike, but like you say, I guess
maybe subconsciously you've held that bike together and then really blitzed the run course.
I'll take that. That was my plan all along.
There you go. And so you've been out to Kona once before, and you'll be going again this year. How was your experience in Kona the first time out there, and what do you think you'd learned from it to take forward into your next race?
I think, if I'm being sort of perfectly honest, and obviously I've had a fair bit of time to reflect since then, I think I was totally overwhelmed by my first trip to Kona. It's a pretty awesome experience, but also can be quite overwhelming when you get there and you suddenly find yourself amongst the best age group athletes in the world, and but you look around and it seems that everybody looks faster, stronger, leaner than you, and all of a sudden you feel really quite intimidated by these phenomenal looking athletes that are around you, and they're in their droves, and you see them all sort of ripped and tanned the minute you arrive in Kona, sort of biking up and down the Queen K or running through the town itself. And that was pretty intimidating, I must admit, when I first arrived in Kona. And I think, I learned an awful lot about how to prepare, the importance of having sufficient amount of time for acclimation as well. This time I'm fortunate enough to have a bit more time before the race out there to actually acclimatise, which I think will be really beneficial. And just hopefully I'll be in I'll be much better prepared mentally, because I know what to expect. And I think, hopefully in a stronger place mentally, feeling like I've earned my place there and I belong there, rather than last time thinking, what the hell am I doing here? I don't belong amongst these supreme athletes that all look amazing, and there's very ordinary looking me with my pasty Leicestershire tan.
I always think that's the hardest bit about being a Brit going abroad to a foreign race like that, is you get there and even you're going out to Lanzarote or Fuerteventura, in the Canaries, you do a training camp and everybody else seems to be bronzed.
They do,
and it kind of makes them look like you fit in, and then there's the rest of us here with our little chicken legs poking out, and it is psychologically. I mean, I remember I went to Kona years ago when I was a windsurfer, and the weird thing about it is when you get out of the plane into the airport, and it's an outdoor airport, isn't it? It's all kind of somehow walled, but also somehow not walled in.
It's pretty
and the
unique.
heat and humidity hits you, and you're thinking,
yeah,
that was the thing that did my head in. I wasn't even racing. I was just carrying a surfboard through. I was thinking, I'm going to get cooked here. It's just that the whole atmosphere felt toxic to humans. And I was thinking, I need a hat, I need factor 50, and I need to get out the sun straight away. So are that the kind of things that went through your head when you arrived as well?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think the sort of being absolutely exhausted by wheeling my my bike box to the accommodation was probably made me a little nervous. I was thinking, how the hell am I going to run a marathon when I'm struggling to wheel my bike box to the hire car depot? So definitely the anxiety hit as soon as I arrived, like you say, at that outdoor airport, with the heat and the sun blazing down on me.
How far before the race did you get there? And obviously you said you didn't think it was enough, but how far ahead of the race did you get there?
Yeah, I mean, last time I was a week. I had a week to acclimatise. This time I've got a full 2 weeks. And certainly it's suggested that, acclimation optimally you need sort of 10 to 14 days. That will hopefully advantage me somewhat in terms of acclimatising when I get out there.
Sure.
And I've also got some plans to do a little bit of heat acclimation work here before I go out there.
And how are you going to do that? Go on, tell us about that, because I'm like a little sponge when I talk to other athletes about ideas. How are you planning to do that? Is it going to be the classic working out in the sauna kind of idea?
Well, it's funny. I've a friend of mine always describes it as that heat acclimation work doesn't always have to be that sophisticated. Sometimes it's just getting a bit hot and bothered when you're training. Actually, funnily enough, I've got plans to actually utilise the facility here at the race hub. I know we're going to talk about the race hub in a wee while, but I've got a plan to actually create my own heat lab here at the race hub. Super sophisticated, a couple of space heaters and a couple of wallpaper strippers. So we've got some plans. We've got some plans.
So if you're going to Kona this year, head to Race Hub for acclimation training.
Absolutely.
Come
and join me in getting hot and bothered in training.
So you're obviously this is a great time to talk about Race Hub, actually, because one of the other reasons I wanted to have you on, obviously you're a quality athlete, and as an age grouper who's finished top 10 amongst the ladies at Wales, and I mean, you've been very humble and modest about this, but you were 39th at Kona, so that's top 40 in the world in your age group is a really impressive performance. So
thank you.
it'll probably be even better this year after this heat acclimation.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I mean, actually, at my previous Kona performance, it was my running where things unravelled, which has not been the case in my previous Ironman events. So I'm hoping that in going back, I'm really desperate to put together a run performance which is a bit more reflective of my ability in Kona, and hopefully that will allow me to really target a better finish in Kona this time. The problem,
because I suppose if you'd put together a 3:30, you'd have been in probably just outside the top 10 in your age group, wouldn't you?
Well,
wouldn't have been far off.
Yeah, the issue that you've got with Kona is if you have a bad patch on the marathon, it's not like having a bad patch on an Ironman marathon elsewhere. You don't lose a couple of places because of the depth of the ability of the athletes there. You suddenly find yourself plummeting down the field if you have a bad patch on your marathon. So you can't afford those bad patches in Kona because you'll suddenly find yourself relegated way down the field. So
it's crazy, isn't it? The depth in your age group here, I'm looking, and from if you run 10:14, you'd have got 13th place, and if you run 10:15, you'd have got 17th place.
I know.
So a minute's cost you 5 or 6 places there.
Yeah,
So
that's it. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy, but brilliant and phenomenal to get the opportunity for a second time to pitch myself against the best girls in the world, and what a massive privilege that is, and I'm so excited to go back and get a second bite at the cherry. Is I'm really grateful for that opportunity. So excited. Yeah.
If everything goes perfectly for you there, and this is the cup of try kiss of death question.
Oh no! What are you doing to me?
If everything goes perfectly, what do you think you could put together at Kona, splits wise?
I'd love to think that. I mean, I always think, that the marathon there is tough. And I think, to run your best marathon time at Kona is probably sort of setting yourself up for disappointment. But I'd certainly like to be close to that 3:30 marker, which I've run pretty consistently across my last 3 Ironman races, bar Kona, have been, at that, in the order, very close in and around that 3:30 marker. So if I could get close to that for the run in Kona, I'd be really happy with that. I think bike-wise, of course, the wind has such a part to play, so it's really difficult to predict your bike time because you just don't know how generous the wind gods are going to be to you in any given year in Kona. So yeah, I'll have to wait and see on that one. But and again, swim wise, it's non-wetsuit swim, so I'm usually around the hour swimming, so I'd probably anticipate I'll be nearer to 105 in Kona. But if I can get close to the 105, I think is achievable for me in the swim. I rode 5:28 at Kona last time. Admittedly, I had a really, I think, favourable wind conditions that year. And then 3:30-ish, close to, for the marathon. I think sort of...
It's going to put you there or thereabouts, isn't it? You get the perfect day in that top 10, and a nice bowl for the kitchen table is definitely within the grasp if the gods are favourable and everything goes right.
I mean, I'm realistic about Ironman. I'm realistic about my own ability, and I know that I need an absolutely perfect day to come along for that to happen. But, like you say, I've also got to continue to believe that is within my grasp and sits within the range of my ability, probably, stretching my ability. But, I have to believe that it's possible and go out there and do my best to get as close to those times as I possibly can. Take it from there.
Fantastic. Now, one of the things that's definitely going to help you in your training and your preparation is the aforementioned Race Hub. And that's the other reason that I wanted to have you on, because you're involved in opening this new facility in Leicestershire, aren't you? And is it near Melton Mowbray? Am I correct in saying that? Is that the nearest?
Yeah, we're very close to Melton Mowbray. We're situated at Six Hills, which is on the A46, which is probably about 20 minutes from Nottingham, 20 minutes from Leicester, and very close to Melton Mowbray. Now, Race Hub is actually owned by Johnny Nicol. Johnny is a very successful local event organizer. He is the man behind Race Time Events management company.
Oh, there you go. I knew the name. Yeah. Okay.
And Johnny also manages the Race Time Events race team, of which I'm one of the athletes that make up that race team, along with husband Duncan, and a number of other very talented, predominantly East Midlands based athletes. Johnny's my team manager, and now he's my boss as well. Johnny's got a new venture with his wife Laura, Race Hub, and I've come on board as the manager of that facility, which is great for me.
So from what I've seen, I mean, I've had a nosy on your website, and obviously I've only got but it looks absolutely beautiful. You're situated right on the edge of a beautiful open water swimming lake. You've got a spin studio. You're going to have a retail facility there as well. It just sounds like a triathlete's dream.
Well,
have you got any jobs going?
we could do, actually. We'll talk afterwards about that, Rob. We're situated here on the lake at Six Hills. It's a beautiful lake, a beautiful spot. I've probably got one of the best office window views of anyone I know. Beautiful lake, really healthy waterfowl population here, it's really glorious. So we've got open water swimming here, and we've also got a watt bike studio as well.
Brilliant. And so people can come down, and presumably you do sessions where people can do group training and things like that.
Yeah, we do. We have a class timetable for which individuals can sign up to and come and participate in an instructor-led watt bike class. In addition to that, we have drop-in sessions. So for those athletes that have coaches or programs that they're following, they can simply come in and use our facility here. And we also host sessions for clubs as well. So clubs can actually hire our entire studio here, which comprises of 10 bikes, and they can actually book that for their club sessions. And certainly we've had loads of interest and some bookings for winter training slots for local clubs that are looking to use our facility over the winter.
Yeah, that sounds great, actually. If you're a local club down there, you could bring the gang down and do a group, not a turbo session, but a group watt bike session together.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's a similar place opened up near us, up in Manchester. And the benefit of them is, obviously, if you're not training with power on your usual bike, the ability to get that power metric as you're training.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is something that really kind of drags you into the world of power, because those numbers don't lie and they don't change.
They certainly do. It's I always describe it as training with power. It's a really honest way to train, it makes for really high quality training sessions, and that group environment obviously adds to that considerably. We've got some really fun stuff happening down here at the Race Hub. For instance, tonight we've actually got our first race night down here, and we've actually got a watt bike omnium. Which I've tried as closely as possible to represent all the composite events of the Omnium, and we've got members of it's actually Race Time Triathlon Club and friends of that are coming down to challenge themselves against the Claire SS designed watt bike Omnium.
That sounds great. So you'll have like a little time trial and a sprint.
So we're using
people are going to do themselves damage, Claire.
Quite possibly. Yeah, quite
I
possibly.
can sense it already.
Quite possibly. I'm sure the Club Honour will get the best of people. So I'm fully anticipating our What Bite studio to turn into a bit of a pain cave this evening. But luckily the coffee machine's on, and we've got plenty of cake in our cafe for refueling afterwards. So let them do their worst or their best, should I say, and we'll look after them and make sure that they're sent away sufficiently refueled.
Brilliant. Now listen, just before I let you go, we are, by the time this episode goes out, we will be goats out before it goes out. I think we'll be 3 weeks before Ironman Wales. Now,
right.
So I'm going to get a chance to pick your brains on behalf of the listeners. If there was one thing they could do in the last 3 weeks before preparing for Ironman Wales, or a few little things, what advice would you give to people who are going down there for the first time?
Well, it's going out 3 weeks before. I mean, if it had been sooner, I probably would have said some sort of course assimilation is really important for Wales. However, if you don't get the chance to do that, do try and build in some time to drive the course at Wales. I do think it is a bike course, where you really benefit from at least having seen the course from the car, even if it's not from your bike. So I would definitely recommend doing that. I think there are sections of the course where you really do benefit from knowing what's coming next. I guess that would be one tip I would say. Try and build in enough time in your pre-race preparation to, at the very least, have a drive around the course. Ideally, if you can, to ride it, or perhaps ride some of the more technical sections. If you have got a bit of time ahead of the race, then that's ideal. But do get out, drive that course, and make sure that at least it's familiar and there are no surprises for you come race day.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, I think, and it's something that's not going to take anything out of anybody's race.
No.
And it gives them that kind of forewarned is forearmed, that don't leave it all out there on the first lap, isn't it, really?
Absolutely. I would really recommend doing that if you get the chance. So, in fact, I would say don't leave it to chance. Make sure that you've built that in somewhere into your pre-race preparation.
Good stuff. And have you got any races coming up in the run-up to Kona this year?
I have actually, yes. I'm very excited to be heading up to the Rubicon next weekend, to race over the half Ironman distance. The timing is perfect. They've got a fabulous course up there. It's an absolutely glorious setting at the Rubicon, and it's an athlete it's a race that's run for athletes by athletes. Obviously, with the Livesies very much involved in the organisation of that, and as a consequence, I'm really excited to see what Mark's put together up there. And there's an absolutely stellar field established. Particularly,
it does look like it'll be a good race, especially on the women's side. There's a lot of big names.
I thought the same actually. So I'm really excited to be heading up there, racing on a fabulous course in a favourite part of the country, against some really top girls. Can't wait for that. And of the national relays, of course, this coming weekend. Nice. Try to see whether these Ironman legs have got any pace left in them. So team relay for me, with my race time teammates. I'll be racing with husband Duncan, David Robertson and Becky Hewitt in a mixed relay team on Sunday. So looking forward to that.
Best of luck for
Thank
that.
you.
Well, listen, thanks very much for giving up your time to talk to us. I really appreciate it.
You're
I think some
welcome.
good tips there for the people racing Wales, and I think for people going to Kona as well, there's some good stuff they can take from that and build into their preparations.
Yeah, fabulous.
And they'll get to see you out there because you're already pre-qualified.
Yeah, exciting! Can't wait. I'm absolutely thrilled to be heading out there with my husband. Is pretty exciting to get to race alongside each other. So yeah, we're hugely excited by it.
Ah, that's brilliant. Well, listen, I wish you both the best of luck. Thanks very much for being on the show.
No,
and we'd
thank you.
love to have you back on again in the future and maybe find out about how Kona went for you both.
Oh, fab. Thanks, Rob.
And all the best with Race Hub. I think it sounds like a great venue,
Brilliant.
and it's just a shame it's a bit too far away from us. We can pop down and have a go on the watt bikes.
Well, you're always welcome as a guest whenever you're passing. So yeah,
that's very
do
kind.
come and see us.
Good stuff. All right. Well, listen, you take care of yourself. Thanks very much for the time.
Rob. Thanks to you.
And all the best for Kona.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Rob.
Bye now. Right, and we got an email through here from Claire after the interview saying, I've pulled together an offer for Cup of Tri listeners. We'd like to offer a free watt bike class or drop-in session at our studio for any Cup of Tri listener booking an induction in September. The induction will cost you £10. We'd also like to extend our August offer on group bookings exclusively to Cup of Tri listeners all the way through to the end of September. This includes a half-price group induction and half-price group bookings. To redeem either offer, Cup of Tri listeners are invited to email claire@racehub.uk quoting Cup of Tri. And she says, will you mind giving out our website address? The address is www.racehub.uk. And again, the August offer that was been extended to you here is the half-price studio hire. You can have the whole watt bike section there for £25 for the hour, and the group induction costs £50, and that's for up to 11 people. So really, there you go, £75 for 11 people for the hour. Happy days. So again, to book, email claire@racehub.uk. Guys, you've been listening to another episode of the Cup of Tri Triathlon podcast. Hope you found it interesting. I've been Coach Rob Wilby, and my co-host was Helen Murray. Until next week, I hope you all have a great training and racing week, and for anyone who's racing this coming weekend, hope you have a fantastic time. Summer's coming to an end, so enjoy your time out there. Cheers, everyone.